It's okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for your patience as we're getting everything going. My name is Sam, and on behalf of Book Soup, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us for our virtual event with Colin Jost and Robert Downey Jr. here to discuss Colin's memoir, A Very Punchable Face. We are so grateful that our bookstore can continue to bring authors and their works to our community during this uncertain time and virtually expand our community outside of Los Angeles. And we'll be hosting more virtual events in the near future, which you can learn about on our website at booksoup.com, as well as our social media at booksoup. Our next event is tomorrow at 6 p.m., same time as tonight, with Damien Eccles and Sean Corn to discuss Damien's new book, Angels and Archangels, A Magician's Guide. Tonight, our guests will go through some questions that you sent in via Eventbrite. Because of the volume of questions, we won't be able to answer them all, but we will answer as many questions as time will allow. And with that said, let me introduce our guest speakers for this evening. Colin Jost serves as a head writer at Saturday Night Live, television's longest running and most successful sketch and comedy show, now in its 45th season. Jost originally joined the show as a writer in 2005 and became a co-head writer in 2012. Jost also co-anchors Weekend Update alongside fellow cast member Michael Che since 2014. Jost has won 5 Writers Guild Awards, 2 Peabody Awards, and has been nominated for 13 Emmys for his writing on SNL. Jost and Che have hosted special editions of Weekend Update on MSNBC during the 2016 Republican and Democratic National Conventions. In 2018, they co-hosted the 70th Primetime Emmy Awards. As a writer, Jost has been published multiple times in The New Yorker and has contributed to the New York Times Magazine, The Huffington Post, amongst others. This summer, Jost debuts his memoir, A Very Punchable Face. The memoir is a series of essays which document pivotal moments in Jost's life, including growing up in Staten Island in a family of firefighters, commuting 3 hours a day to high school, attending Harvard while Facebook was created, and more. For every accomplishment and absurd moment, there is an honest emotional one. Told with a healthy dose of self-deprecation, A Very Punchable Face was published by Random House on July 14th, and Jost currently resides in New York. And our next special guest, who also needs no introduction, but of course that's why I'm here, to summarize his illustrious career as much as possible. Mr. Robert Downey Jr. is a 2-time Academy Award nominee and Golden Globe winner, best known for his performance in the title role of the blockbuster franchise Iron Man. Downey received praise from critics and audiences for his performance of the now iconic Marvel Comics superhero. He went on to reprise his role in several subsequent record-breaking Marvel films, most recently Avengers Endgame. The film, which saw Downey Jr. star in his iconic role as Tony Stark/Iron Man for the final run, was an unprecedented cinematic journey 10 years in the making that has spanned the entire all-star cast of the MCU. It currently holds the record of the highest-grossing film of all time, garnering more than $2.79 billion at the worldwide box office. Downey Jr. recently starred in Universal's family adventure film Doolittle, which released in January of this year. This film is a reinvention of the world author Hugo Lofting first imagined in his series of children's books almost 100 years ago. Team Downey, the production company Downey Jr. started with his wife Susan, produced the film, which featured an impressive cast of Antonio Banderas, Craig Robinson, Emma Thompson, among many others. Downey Jr. is in various stages of development with Team Downey on several other projects, including the STX psychological thriller A Head Full of Ghosts, starring Margaret Qualley with Scott Cooper directing. On the television side, Downey Jr. recently released an 8-episode docuseries entitled The Age of AI for YouTube Originals, which has become one of YouTube's most successful original series with an extraordinary viewership across more than 100 countries and every continent. He is also prepping the series Sweet Tooth for Warner Brothers TV and executive producing HBO's Perry Mason, starring Matthew Rhys. The limited series premiered to great success on June 21st, becoming HBO's most-watched series debut in nearly 2 years. Previously, Downey earned a Golden Globe Award for his performance as the lead role in the action-adventure Sherlock Holmes. He was also nominated for an Academy Award in the Best Supporting Actor category for his work in Ben Stiller's 2008 comedy hit Tropic Thunder. His performance as Kirk Lazarus also brought him Golden Globe, BAFTA, and Screen Actors Guild Award nominations. In 1992, Downey Jr. was honored with his first Academy Award nom in the Best Actor category for his portrayal of Charlie Chaplin in Richard Attenborough's acclaimed biopic Chaplin, for which he also received a Golden Globe Award nomination addition to garnering him a BAFTA Award and a London Film Critic Award. And now, without further ado, I'm going to turn the camera over to Colin and Robert. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy the presentation. Thank you both for being with us tonight. It's wonderful to have you.
Wait a second. You were Iron Man?
Briefly.
Wow. It's great. You learn so much about a person from their bio.
Yeah. I want to thank Sam Jones, and I know you're not a West Coaster. Book Soup is the mecca for the literati. It is such a zone. It is still so meaningful in this. What gen are we in now? You were talking about it before.
Yeah, I think we're in Gen Z. We might be trending. We might be trending right back to A. I assume it goes back again, right?
Gen Alpha?
Gen Alpha. Wow, you might have just coined it, and you might never get credit.
Wow.
Those are the things. You don't get credit for the most brilliant things. Just you never get credit.
Anyway, great job, Sam Jones. Anybody who's skipping online class right now to observe this, I want to thank you.
If you're skipping online summer school, you have a series of deeper problems, I think.
Yeah, it just means you're on a serious vape binge. Now, first things first, Mr. Jones.
Yeah, sure.
Have you sustained any injuries while promoting this book? Any poo-poo pantalones locos? Have you impaled yourself on a fence? Have there been any BMX bike accidents in foreign lands? Are you okay?
I've had some small scrapes, nothing to write home about. I have, since the book came out, had a pooping my pants incident. Very happy to have this as breaking news with you guys right now.
Now, you didn't do it just so you could have additional material for the tour, did you?
No, I did it for the paperback release. I just timed it. I couldn't wait. I didn't time it well. It was supposed to be the forward to the paperback.
You must be one of the most. It's not even accident prone. You're injury friendly.
I'm injury friendly. I like to think of it in a positive way, welcoming injuries and whatever objects didn't think they could be in the way of a human. Yeah. I like to give them new hope.
Well, listen, as it's probably no mystery. I know you a little bit. I think folks know how I know you. Not that I wouldn't have known you anyway because of how I know you. I really like this book. Here's proof that I'm actually reading it. Look at all these dog ears. Now, I could have gone through and just dog-eared the heck out of it, which is always a real sociopathy move.
Yeah.
Sure. But I got to tell you, man, this is the summer read. If you don't have this book, you really should get it. And usually when people say, oh, read this book or so-and-so's book, I read it and then it's dense, or I don't like the way it starts, or I think I can predict how the rest of this book is going to be. And I'm kind of bummed out that it's so good because, first question, why is it so frivolous to be out peddling a memoir at this time?
Why in general, you mean?
Yeah.
Because there's perhaps some other problems.
There's no problems if you get this book.
Now, can I put that? Can I write that on the back of books
By the way,
now?
My review just says this book is Celexa. Just double your dose of it. Get two, so no matter where you are, there is one. I'm telling you, it really is a great summer read, which is what they said about Inherent Vice, Pinchon.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And honestly, all jokey aside, it is what Sam was saying. It really isn't just someone who's really bright and funny writing a book to do some land grab. There's something I think really I'm learning a lot, not just about you, but I'm learning a lot about that 10,000 hours that it takes to achieve mastery of your craft. So I want to talk about, there's so many chapters in here where you are simply grinding your way to a possibility of creating the next opportunity. And I think for the 300 folks that are paying attention right now and the many, many tens of thousands who are going to read this book, could you talk a little more about why all that ridiculously hard work is so critical?
Well, I don't think there's really shortcuts to do pretty much anything in life. I think sometimes there are shortcuts, but then they don't work out. Like there's shortcuts that work, and then whatever that implodes down the line because it didn't have everything behind it. You know what I mean? And you know, I did a lot of stuff before anyone knew who I was, and some of that's what the book is about. But this has basically been my whole life. Everything comedy and writing and performing wise has been my whole life for as long as I've had a life, or understood what a life was.
Yeah.
And I wanted anyone who ever had an interest in doing something like that to know all the weird steps and failures and disappointments of things. Because it's just, you have to keep doing it, and I'm going to have to keep doing it and have many more failures and disappointments, and you have to get used to that. And the faster you get used to it and toughen up about it, the more you get to create the next thing and not dwell on the thing you didn't do well.
Right. As long as we're on 10,000 hours, how many hours in thousands do you think it's going to take until you're confident to challenge me in a follow-up ping pong match?
I don't know that I was humiliated.
You knew this was coming, didn't you? Why don't you describe that day? And it's strange to me that it wasn't a chapter in the book. I'll wait.
God, it was. There were clouds in the sky, but it was, I would say, generally a clear day. The clouds were maybe an omen of something that was to come. I, unlike my obsessive playing partner, hadn't been honing his craft at a ping pong table the entire goddamn summer. Some of us work for a living. I was probably lifeguarding or working at the local ice cream shop with a PPE at the end. So I didn't have time to do frivolous pursuits like ping pong. I show up at your place, and did you want to tell people your address? I forget. Did you want to? So I go to your.
Yeah, I did.
I show up at your place.
I thought that would have been the best title for the chapter about when I kicked your ass.
It's your actual
117 Pantego.
I wish that were it. It was. I showed up. We played ping pong. You were like, "Want to play a little ping pong?" I was like, "What am I going to say? No." We play. I haven't played ping pong in years, and I feel like I held my own. Did I lose all 3 times we played? Yes, but was it competitive? Ish.
I don't think either of us were really all that good. I don't think either of us are the kind of guy that starts getting really into like, hey, you want to have a friendly game of it's not friendly? Anyway, it just happened. I thought it was
chapter worthy.
Yeah, and
chapter worthy is a good like Seinfeld kind of term, like sponge
That's
worthy.
true. I didn't make the cut. Oh, and they're already saying we need to do let's say comedy sketch together. I think we may be launching a multi-tiered vertical comedy franchise together as we speak. Now,
if not a ping pong tournament, a la the 3-man NBA kind of style tournament they launched, that could be ping pong. I like that. I thought they were talking about ping pong, but referring to it as comedy, which is accurate.
Oh, that is interesting.
Yeah.
Now, also, I have a lot of notes because I genuinely care about today. This is just the beginning here.
I was so excited. I look forward to it all weekend.
Oh, well, thanks.
First of all, I want to say I'm very grateful and very honored that you do it with me. And it's just, I would zoom into this or crowd scan into this for nothing and no people. I would love it.
Well, here's the thing, because obviously I know you from having been head writer and then Weekend Update, and it's funny, in this kind of culture sometimes you say, oh, I know who Colin Jost is, he's this. And then in reading the book and knowing more about you anyway, and also in my once longtime castmates' choice of you as life partner, that is a glowing endorsement. And as I dug deeper, I realized that there's really just a lot there. But I didn't know if I could trust you entirely. So I went back and I checked one of the stories.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to Jimmy Buffett, and I said, you didn't happen to maybe ever save Colin Jost's life, did you?
Yeah.
And it turns out you do not have to make a retraction. And now,
well,
again,
I'm curious because I haven't talked to him about it since. What is
Right.
his memory? Because for all I know, he's doing this every day.
First of
For
all,
me, it was one of the biggest moments of my life.
for the audience, please say what happened, and then I'll do the follow-up.
Okay. Met Jimmy Buffett at a dinner in St. Bart's as part of a Vice magazine party. Had dinner with him. Did not realize it was Jimmy Buffett for a long time. We talked about surfing. At some point, he talked about how every time he opens a Margaritaville, he likes to go surfing there. In my brain, I thought, oh, Margaritaville restaurateur, perhaps this man is Jimmy Buffett. He then invites me to go surfing the next day. We go out, we surf. While we're there, he had already warned me about being in by the rocks. When you surf a wave in, I surfed my first wave in, immediately got caught, trapped on the rocks as waves were coming in. Jimmy Buffett came in, cut my leash, got me out of the rocks, saved my life, and then kind of politely told me you might want to go to a gentler surf break.
When you say caught an ankle, like I thought in movies they always make it look like you got caught, but you can't really get caught in rocks.
The leash basically went under a rock. So I was still on my board, turned around to go back out. The leash was caught, so I couldn't move. And then I couldn't get, the waves kept coming in, so I couldn't reach back and get the leash off my ankle.
Oh, boy.
And then my board was just flying, like flopping around, and I couldn't, just the pressure, when you're under that pressure, you can't get to releasing your own ankle from the leash. So he came with a knife, cut the leash, and also when he did it, I was like, oh, I don't want to ruin your leash. I was like, what if Jimmy Buffett, I don't want to ruin one of his.
Oh, that's right, because you didn't bring your own board to St. Bart's, did you?
I did not paddle over from St. Martin.
Because I know you're surfing all the time because
Yes.
What do I follow? What is it? What's the British magazine? The Sun. Oh, Daily Mail. So I see pictures of you scantily clad damn near every day while the rest of us are struggling to figure out what it all means. You're out there endangering the lives of lifeguards wherever you go.
Yeah, no, definitely. The dangerous 2-foot waves that are on Long Island right now. Very dangerous. I know kind of what I'm doing. I'm an okay surfer in a lot of in sometimes very dangerous conditions. I can hold my own, but this was not particularly seemingly dangerous. I just had made a fatal misstep of ignoring Jimmy's advice and getting too close to the rocks.
Okay. Oh, I'm told I have to stop following the Daily Mail. That's fine, right? I can click. I can do that. See, I'm very changeable.
I'm not getting this. Oh, I got a view. I'm missing all the chat. I didn't. Oh, here we go. I gotcha. Yep.
Oh, Daily Mail is fascist. Oh, geez. All right. Jesus. All right. So yeah, I talked to Jimmy. He also said that he forgot about the invitation, and fortunately, he was around when you showed up. And then I just think it's great. Any guy that's going around with like a knife belt around his calf, that's my kind of guy.
I mean, not what you think of when you think of Jimmy Buffett. Anyone that's now living in a Margaritaville retirement community is not going for the calf knives. I'll tell you that right now. And I believe it that he invited me at a dinner at whatever 10 p.m. I showed up the next morning at 8 a.m. and it was very clear that he had either forgotten about the invitation or not intended to really follow through on it.
It's pretty great when you're not quite sure who you've made an appointment with, and then they have no recollection of the appointment.
I know, and for you, it's very meaningful. And so you're like worried about, wait, is it okay?
And
And
I'm
then they're
also a
like,
stickler. If I say I'll be there at 7:30, I mean, also my hands will start sweating if I'm late. Um, by the way, I know this has been covered before. I need to meet your mom.
please,
What
she would be thrilled anytime.
what's her name? What's her name again?
Dr. Carrie Kelly.
Carrie, exactly. And by the way, that would have been a great name for the author of this memoir too.
Carrie Kelly. I could have, yeah. Once you put doctor in front, it sounds like it's going to be good advice.
Yeah, I don't know if that would have increased. I want some feedback online. Do you think if he'd gone as Dr. Carrie Kelly, doctors are so important? That's a sick name, Dr. Carrie Kelly.
It's a great, that is a good character name, by the way, don't you think?
Yeah, but it's also your mom who, by the time, I mean, listen, not many of us get to write a chapter in a book about something that's so true and is such an heroic description of events during a time of great calamity. Now, listen, here's another crazy thing. And I think for a lot of folks, the circuitous route by which you and I wind up on this your memoir Zoom thing at Book Soup and all our friends who are watching and all that stuff, and where you came from, Staten Island, how you wound up at Harvard and then the Lampoon, and then how you then came back, but then you moved to the city, and then you got a job back in the city. But between that, you went to Russia.
Yeah, you gotta. I mean, everyone always says that's where you spend the summer.
Right. Now, you're only failing, as far as I can tell, after working your ass off at it and remaining optimistic, was this never completed translation of a Russian short story.
A Victor Pelevin short story that I think is called like Tambourine World Order, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. And I really thought that's going to be the cherry on the top of the sundae of my thesis, is at the end of the thesis, already an impossible task, is going to just be tacked on. By the way, I translated a short story from Russian to English. You know, I gotta say, there might be a summer where I just decide I'm going to do it, and I go in, and that's my summer. I translate that short story, and probably then I read it again. I realize it might not even be a great short story, but I'm putting in the work.
But
I don't think I can do it, but I'm not going to go back yet. I'm going to wait till I'm depressed and homesick and then flee the work that I was supposed to do.
I see.
You know what? Part of translating any good short story is just living in the space and not really translating it. You know what I mean? You have to really walk in their shoes and get a sense of the ground. You know what I mean? Have you talked to a lot of short story translators? They'll tell you that.
And what is your feeling about sour cream as a condiment?
Not touched it since I saw an elderly Russian woman spooning it into her mouth like it was ice cream.
This was your host family.
Correct. Host family is a loose term because they did not speak to me or invite me to do a single meal activity, point me in the direction of a museum or a church. Zero.
Maybe because they saw that you weren't translating the fucking short story that you come there to do, Colin. But anyway, when I read
they were the parents of the author, and it was a trap.
When I read that chapter, I just thought of you going, Russia is an amazing cultural cornucopia, and I happen to be looking at the one person who's in the middle of a Ray Bradbury novel, grossing me out like Dr. Phibes, eating sour cream, and thinking, this might be, you may have been traumatized.
I mean, absolutely. On a sour cream level, it was maybe, I mean, I think it, I don't think I've even had mayonnaise since. Anything that's even a spiritual relative.
And was it after that you came back and then got the job at the Advance after you'd moved to the city?
Yes. Then I left my parents' place in Staten Island, got hired went into the city, finally escaped Staten Island
Yes.
with my friends, all piled into an apartment in the city, and immediately the only job prospect I had was back on Staten Island at the local newspaper working from midnight to 8 a.m.
I mean, the sleep. You know what's crazy too? I look back on all these experiences and I go, each and every one of them, and tell me if you disagree, put you in a position to be able to withstand the vagaries, the stresses, and the absolute kidney squeezing, chi depleting job that you have maintained and made so part of your persona now.
It definitely made it more, less jarring when the job was all night. I had done that. When the job was felt like depressing, or you were not getting any kind of sort of, you felt like what you were doing sucked. I was used to that feeling.
Yep.
And just being creatively frustrated, I was used to that feeling, and those are healthy feelings. Did any of reading any of the early SNL things?
Yeah.
Did it bring back anything for you? Did it have did it either seem relatable or stir other kinds of memories for you about that weird world?
Again, a pretty different generation, but I would say that those buildings, being at 30 Rock, auditioning, the fact that somehow or other you're informed that you're a not ready for primetime player, and then you go into this maelstrom, it is still the most exciting 90 minutes any performer can have on earth, barring nothing, because it's as you know, it is a fever dream. Why do your stand-up set lists look like ransom notes?
Great transition.
Thank you.
Why? I don't know. It's how my brain works. I write it down, and then I look at the word. Each word is a whole joke. Sometimes a word is like a 6-minute joke.
And
it's a word, and it's just a trigger for me mentally. I used to do it in school. If I had to memorize like a long list of terms or something, I would write them all out. It's actually great. I would memorize the first letter of each term. So I would write
exactly what I would do too.
And then I remembered the word that the acronym made. And then I would in a test.
The word that the acronym made. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's.
So I would take the first letter of every term I needed to memorize for a bio, whatever it was. Then I would make those words into even if they were nonsense, into a nonsense word or phrase.
Yep.
And then when I was in the test, I could mentally go back to that piece of paper. I could take that phrase, write it on my test paper, and then fill in what each word was, and then have basically the entire thing I had written down earlier next to my exam paper. And then I could think, oh yeah, I know this word, and that's how I know them. The correlation of all of them all came back because I created a visual aid. It was basically like sneaking in notes, but in your brain, which is legal.
It's funny, Susan framed this thing from one of the Sherlocks where I went and rewrote a scene before we shot it. It looked exactly like that. And my memorization technique is also the acronym, but not because I was doing tests. The only tests I ever had to do were your analysis. People are enjoying this. I want you to know that people are saying that you and I are serotonin. They say maybe it's called being smart. Say hi to the missus for us. We love Susan. I love Susan. Love tests. LOL. Ha ha ha. That's pretty good.
The first time I've ever seen the phrase "love tests" in a chat room.
And here's the other thing, because maybe we're so similar. I think the next logical progression for you now, from stand-up, writing, Weekend Update, 10,000 hours, new chapter. I think everyone is kind of molting and figuring out what they're going to do.
Yeah.
When are you going to act?
I desperately want to.
Tell me you're developing something.
I am.
Yes. Good.
I'm developing something for me and Pete Davidson that I wrote a version of already, and other people, and that's the first thing that I'm developing. And I have some other things that I desperately want to do as we're going. I mean, I'm extremely excited. I'm nervous about it, but I'm excited about it.
Colin and Pete, yes. Art House Movie Award, we love Pete. Dream Team, yes, yes, yes. Pete and Colin, we want to see you. I will, Team Downey forever, thank you. Why you and Pete? Oh my God. Now, by the way, you know the great thing when you start watching comments?
Yeah.
My right-hand man, Jimmy Rich, who was setting up the call before, he goes, I posted something of you, and this kid who got in front of his sister when she was getting attacked by, anyway, it was this beautiful thing, and there's kind of this outpouring. And the comments were like, oh, what a badass, oh, he looks great. And then they started descending into, bro, how come he looks so sad? What's wrong with RDJ? Is he sad? And then I started going, am I sad? And then I go, wait a minute. I'll tell you when I'm sad. You think I'm some sad sack fucker? You want to see sad? I'll show you sad. Let me remember this right now. Oh, fucking sad.
How quickly can you do that? How quickly can you? Are you an instant? I can have a thing in a memory and immediately go into full actual. I'm not trying to ask you to do it, but
you could even pick an eye depending on where the lens is. I got you covered no matter what you need.
And how long did it take you to do that, or was it always kind of
the entire shooting of Chaplin? By the end of it, I had become what you would call an externalist in my technique of acting.
I don't know what that means. I've never heard that term.
All the New Yorkers and the non-Brits were doing that internal method where it's all about I die in the movie, so I'm sleeping in a coffin. The Brits are all about let's just get our technique right. So I went full on Brit. What do you believe has been at all your time?
I thought it was going to end there. I was like, wow.
Yeah, I'm tired of talking.
What do I believe?
What is, in your opinion, and by the way, you just pick one. It doesn't have to be like everyone else should say they lost. The quintessential host-guest pairing.
The one I thought of the other day, which I do kind of think is the quintessential host-guest pairing, that is the best, by the way of asking that question. Yeah, everyone will ask, who's your favorite host? They'll even ask, who's your favorite musical guest? The better question, which no one asks, is what is the quintessential pairing, which is what you just asked me.
Thanks, Sean.
I'll tell you this. At each episode of SNL, they print out a physical tickets, old-timey slip of paper tickets for every audience. So when you go to a show, if you're lucky to get an audience ticket, you get a physical ticket. And I have requested, as I've been there longer, physical tickets for some of my favorite shows to remember.
That's great.
What some of those are. And I've requested a bunch through the years, but I would say one of the most, probably my favorite memory, because it was the perfect time for me there and it happening, Betty White hosting, Jay-Z musical guest.
And by the way, one of our listeners nailed that.
It's pretty great. I will also say one, I don't even remember the show as much, but it was another great one, is Scarlett and Arcade Fire.
Oh.
That's a pretty great combo for lots of reasons.
I want to talk, and I want to make sure I get to some of the questions that were sent in too, even though mine are super searing and sophisticated.
Yes.
What's the difference and what's the process? What are you looking for when you're writing a cold open that's more of like a scene or a way to come in before you intro the host and the host monologue? If it's going to roll one way or another, what sort of mechanisms kick into place? Say, for instance, if it rolls into, it's a cold open, that's what we want to do, that's been submitted. What are the 3 or 5, what are all the pieces that need to be there for you to say, that's going to work?
Great question. The biggest, I mean, these are all great questions. I don't mean to just say that, but I'm really,
right.
I mean, I'm right. I think one thing that's very important that you learn as you go is you want the cast out there that everyone wants to see that week. And that changes sometimes, but when you have someone that's out there that is doing a role that they're going to destroy in, or they're on a hot streak or something. You know, they've had a couple shows that are going well. If they're a new cast member,
Yeah.
like, oh, you want the audience to get to see them because that's who they're looking to see. You know what I mean? That's part of it. And the other is always, is this the story? Is this the story, not necessarily that's on the front page of CNN? Is it the real story people are talking about? You know, is it the thing everyone, when you go to your, you know, when you go back to your family, when you go hang out with your friends, they're like, did you see this? That's crazy, right?
Right.
That story. And if our show, if you do the best take on whatever that story is, it's going to be a great opening, or a good opening, like a memorable opening. So I look for those things. And there's sometimes where what the story is on Wednesday or Thursday, it's a perfect piece for that idea. We're not perfect.
Okay.
Okay idea.
So in other words,
the story changes.
That makes sense.
The story changes.
It's always the state of play. So in that way, it is like journalism in a way.
And you'll sometimes see on our show like a sketch that's the third or fourth sketch of the show that is that old cold open. That's a political sketch or a cultural sketch, and it was still good because it was good anyway. But it wasn't the big story, and so some big story bumped it out to the third or fourth sketch or whatever.
Okay, we'll get back to monologues some other time. Rachel Leishman, she asked a question on Twitter and on Instagram.
Twitter.
When writing your memories, is it easy to write them as they happen? Is it difficult not to romanticize them and just write the story? You know, do you have moments of vulnerability or embarrassment putting them down to share with whomever reads the book? But the first part is it hard not to romanticize or embellish when you're writing a memoir?
I think that you know, and I think anyone who will read this book will know, there's not a lot of romance to a lot of the stories. It was sometimes hard not to re-humiliate myself, but there wasn't a lot of romance to it. The one time period that I wrote about that I actually do romanticize is the part where I'm a staff writer. When I first start out as a young man writing for SNL, and that time where I have very little responsibility, but I'm working at SNL. And that is, I actually think I under-romanticized it because I didn't want people to hate me for how wonderful it was. It was really a glory period that was just pure everything I wanted from life in one package.
And it's crazy too, because I really appreciated that you put it out there that when you're just one of the nutter butters running around the asylum, it's great. And then when you bump up to the next level and they say, guess what, Colin? We'd like you to run the asylum. And you go, no, don't have shit on the walls anymore.
Of course, you understand, like that trick. It's almost like in stand-up when you move from being the feature act. If you're opening for someone on the road, people come up to you and they'll say, oh my God, you were my favorite part of the show.
Yep.
But you have no pressure of selling tickets, doing twice or three times the amount of time on stage.
Yeah.
You know, getting your name out there. And then suddenly you have to be the headliner and people are like, I like the feature guy more. Why is the theater half empty? All that stuff. You take on that pressure. Why are the ratings not better? All that stuff.
Well, if there's one thing, because you did not come from privilege, you worked your ass off to get where you are. You earned where you are, and you are intending to keep earning it. And I think that just behaviorally modeling that, I know you take the piss out of yourself a lot, but you're a good dude. You're super talented. And if anything in your upbringing is evident, it's that you were raised right and you have done the right thing. Rachel Talent says, do you have moments of, no, I'm going to Afi. What was your first inspiration writing this book? What was the first reason you thought I should do this? Or the first image that came to your mind?
The first image that came to my mind was how many weird periods of time I had been, how many times I'd been at institutions that were essentially dying or on their last legs. And it's up from everything from, I worked in print journalism. I worked in right before the internet. I was in Catholicism and the Catholic Church right before so many things came out and it blew up. I was at the last gasp of nuns teaching me in elementary school while they still grabbed you by the tie and held you up, like physically abused kids. In my way, in my mind.
So glad you got your foot in the door before that evaporated, huh?
Like all this stuff. I worked for an animation company that was like hand animation before every computer took over.
Right.
I worked for Merrill Lynch as an intern before the financial collapse. I worked for I work now for a network television variety comedy show that's 90 hours. 90 minutes. I've seen a lot of weird.
Isn't that an interesting Freudian slip? And the nice thing is on Saturday, it's only a 90-hour show.
It feels like.
Julia Leite says, do you have a notebook with you at all times? Where do you do your best writing? Where?
Great question. See, I don't just say it to you. For a long time, I had a physical moleskin notebook, or I think the Italians call it a moleschine.
Yes. See,
I kept it in my back pocket, and I kept a pen in my front pocket, and I would always write down a sketch idea or a half idea, and I would actually go back to that in a dry period of time in my mind, and I would go back and look, and I'd be like, oh, that's kind of actually an interesting idea. I did that. Now I do notes on my iPhone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I do. I have running notes. I have a SNL sketch ideas notes. I have a movie scene idea notes that could go into lots of different things. Stand-up notes that I keep. To watch is one that people are like, you should check this out. I try to write it down so that I can remember what was that documentary. So I do it that way. Most of my best writing, honestly, is in bed, or I get up and go to either back to bed and just sit there on my computer. And if I have 8 hours straight, don't leave my bed except to get a coffee or to get a chicken noodle soup. Don't leave my bed and just write until I have 2,000 words done, and then I.
Oh, wow. Okay. Let's go on. This needs to be heard. We were so looking forward to your stand-up event in Madison, Wisconsin this past May. We were so sad. Oh, this is Jamie and Wes. Missing your show due to COVID. They'd purchased tickets as a going away to college gift for our high school senior that has watched SNL with us since they were little, and Weekend Update has always been their favorite part. We are so happy to be able to attend this virtual event together as sort of a makeup for missing that. Do you have any plans to do a virtual event like this for your stand-up, or maybe for a special?
I think it's a lot harder to do it pure stand-up. First of all, I want to say Madison, if you are a stand-up comedy fan, is one of the best, if not the best town in America. Yep. And it is not an exaggeration. Madison, the comedy club in Madison and the theater in Madison are crazy good. The crowds are great. It's the most well-run club, a wonderful Greek family that just has generationally run it, and they're so sharp and smart and nice, and it's great. I want to get back there. I would love, part of doing stand-up, the best part is you go to all these different places. You see America, you see people, and it's that's what I miss. I don't want to do that virtually because I want to go and travel as soon as I possibly can, which I will, and I will make up all these dates and go. And I'm very grateful that that family came, and that's a very sweet college.
Yeah. It's also crazy to me in the book, A Very Punchable Face, a Colin Jost memoir. Got to get it. You talk about how you would be doing the SNL weekly hours and then doing stand-up 4 nights. It's just absolutely crazy. Joyce Love Doriel says, have you learned how to make pie less zesty during quarantine?
Do you know this? Do you know this?
I need to know.
I at Thanksgiving, Scarlett did all the cooking, she's a wonderful cook, and I was so happy she did it. I would have happily, I volunteered. I was there the entire day. Happily volunteered my services, even if they were, shaving an onion, whatever you do to an onion, and whatever you want to do. I was there. And instead, she was like, "I got it. Don't worry, relax." And I was like, "Well, I should do so. I'll make a pie. I'll look at it." And I sometimes do things and surprise her. I made pretzels that she liked one time, like soft, original made my own dough pretzels. They were a hit with her family, so I thought I'll do a pie. What could go wrong? Made this pie. I followed a Ina Garten recipe. I thought to the T, whichever one, and served it. Everyone seemed to like it. Scarlett said it was a little zesty. I thought that was the end of it. Then she goes on for press for Avengers, goes on a morning show, and then they're like, "How was Thanksgiving?" She goes, "Yeah, it was good. I cooked everything. Colin didn't even help out, and he made a pie. It was too zesty." Then I'm getting hate messages from people like, "You can't even make a non-zesty pie for your girl." All this stuff. I'm like, I didn't, I volunteered. Whatever you needed me for, I was there. I'm there. I'm in. I was there in the kitchen. She also said 4 days. She was like, it probably took him 4 days. She was there the whole time. It took me like 3 hours.
But don't you get it, dude? That's called osmosis. You couple with someone, she watches your game for about 11 seconds and goes, "Oh, that's what those kind of people do." She hijacked your shit and she made it work for her while she was doing a promo. She was out there selling soap, playing by your rules, brother.
Selling soap.
One last question.
When do I ask all my probing questions of you?
No, next time, baby. Shannon Rona. And by the way, this is, I think, the best question to wrap it up with. I want to thank Shannon Rona. How have you kept your creative side motivated during the stay-at-home quarantine, blah, 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 et cetera? Great question.
That is a good question. The way I've done it is I've gone back and watched and read things that I love. Things that I love from way back, like childhood movies, great comedies that I loved, rewatching like Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
Old Twilight Zones we've been rewatching. Home Alone. On the Waterfront. All over the place. Twin Peaks. Friday Night Lights. Things that were like, oh wow, that was a formational cool thing. Going back, watching them. And even like The Last Dance, like the Jordan documentary. I don't know if you saw it.
Yeah.
That was like, it was both so cool to relive that time, but also so inspiring. This guy, the fact that Michael Jordan was that great and held it to dealt with everything and kept being great. It's so crazy inspiring. And the amount of time and dedication that takes to be that great for that long, and to know you got to do it, and everyone's showing up. There's a million people constantly around, and you got to still do it. It's very, very inspiring to see that, and that I take that. And I'm like, I don't want to forget. I don't want to lose sight of that as the goal. As you want to be that great at whatever you're doing, whatever you are that you're doing, you don't want to lose sight of that.
And dude, for real, you are a top tier player in the field you're in. I feel like you're just getting started. I really appreciated that you ended it, because us Westerners, we always think about output. What am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing that they'll see that I've done? And to take this time to get back to that more Eastern European idea of input. What am I filling myself with or reminding myself is meaningful to me? So when I create or do my job in the service industry again, it's at a next level thing. So it's 7 o'clock. I have to go to my men's group. I could do this forever. I want to thank everybody who joined us here. Seeing all these comments along the side. I'm sorry you didn't see them, Colin, but it might have gotten you too souped up on yourself. All 293 of us greatly appreciate it. We appreciate you. Again, the book is A Very Punchable Face. This is Colin. He's really good, and everything in here is great. You know what I love too is I'm about 2/3 of the way done, and I'm excited to turn the page. It is a great memoir, and I want to thank you for letting me be part of this, buddy.
I'm so grateful that you are reading the book and that you did this. It's great to see you. Again, I would have any excuse to talk to you. I really, really, really appreciate you doing it and talking and having very, very thoughtful questions. And I'll ask you all my thoughtful questions probably in this chat room after.
Okay. Hey, everybody, thanks a ton. Love you 3000. Colin Jost, very punchable face.
Very punchable face. It's also a very kissable face.
Wow. I'm not gonna kiss.
Thank you so much for joining us, both of you. Amazing.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Sam, that was great.
Yes.
Thanks,
Everyone have a wonderful night. Congratulations again. Bye.